All right, I want to throw a question to you that I threw to Jesse the other night.
Mhm.
If you had to bet everything that you have, because Jesse and I disagreed on this, if you had to bet everything that you have that Brock Purdy and Trey Lance are both going to be franchise quarterbacks in this league, or that neither are going to be franchise quarterbacks in this league, where's your money sitting? Jesse was like, and said neither, and played the odds because the odds are that there aren't a lot of franchise quarterbacks. And so I understand why he went in that direction. But I asked the question because I actually think it's the opposite. I think both guys are franchise quarterbacks. I just think what we're looking at is an incredibly raw prospect in Trey that's going to take a while to get there. And Brock Purdy, who's, I think, a franchise quarterback. We just haven't seen quite enough to cement it. I think there's many of us that suspect he may be, but don't, need to see more because, hey, you don't want to judge any quarterback off, 8 or 9, 10 starts. You don't want to be, fall in love that soon. But I would actually say both are going to be franchise quarterbacks, and I believe it to my core. Where are you? Both or neither with Brock and Trey as franchise quarterbacks in the future, not presently, in the future in the NFL?
Thing, but the part where you said that I have to bet everything I own, that's the only part that would make me say that I'm probably going to say no. But when I look at the situation, I really feel like there's a possibility that Brock Purdy could be a franchise type quarterback just based off of what he did last year. We have a small sample size of it, but that's a terrific start to an NFL career. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. And if he can continue to build, then I don't see a reason why. Again, it goes back to what we were talking about a little bit ago. If he's fully healthy and his mind is all right and he's not worried about getting hit and those types of things, and he can improve his game from where he was in year one, I don't see any reason why he can't become that franchise type of quarterback that you have around the NFL. It really, I guess the part of that question depends on what you would say a franchise quarterback is. Because I think there's only about 3 guys in the NFL right now that can carry a team to a certain extent who, guys like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. I'm not sure if there's another one that really carries their team. And so I think part of it comes back to what is your definition of it, and we'll see. I mean, there's a possibility that Brock Purdy, I think, can be, high level NFL quarterback, very high level. And I think that with Trey Lance, I think the road's a little bit longer there because he doesn't have as much experience. But if everything breaks right for him, he might be able to get there too. Our good buddy Jordan Elliott, he's been doing some really good stuff. I saw he putting some film out on Twitter last night of Brock Purdy in the game against Tampa Bay, and there are plays in that game that are just really, really high level quarterback stuff that I don't think people really understand just how high level some of those throws were. I mean, the touchdown that he threw to Brandon Ayuk, he just gets absolutely blown up, but he stands in the pocket, he makes the throw, and he got hit a number of times in that game. And there was another one where it's just a short little check down to Deebo Samuel on the left flat, but he gets absolutely lit up. But he has about, that fast to turn around and get the ball out of his hand to Deebo Samuel, and his ability to make that throw. That's just really top level quarterbacking play. And the 49ers got that out of him last year. And I just don't see why it's all of a sudden just going to vanish. So,
by the way, the one that to Ayuk was very reminiscent. Now, not quite, because Leonard Marshall had a little bit more of a running start, but very similar to Leonard Marshall. His hit on Joe Montana that broke Montana's hand and knocked him out of the NFC Championship game. Brock moves left. He comes all the way back right. And instead of throwing it on the run, he set his feet. And here comes a defensive lineman. I don't know who it was, but he keyholed him pretty hard from behind. And this was after the ball came out. So he threw a perfect dime to Ayuk, and he put it at the pylon. And Ayuk just dropped it. I mean, it couldn't have been delivered there any better if you drew it up. But Brock took a monster hit there, and he got up. Guy's a tough kid. Guy's tough.
Yeah, and that was the wild card game that one happened. I was talking about the touchdown against the Bucs, but yeah, you're right. I mean, that's one of the things I've seen. I recognize that really right off the bat. I just don't put it out there because I don't want everybody to yell at me about comparing him to Joe Montana. But yeah, no, it's 100% accurate. That the way that Montana rolled out, he stops to throw the ball and just gets absolutely blown up from behind. It was very similar to what happened, and Purdy got back up. And that's, again, people want to talk about injuries or what have you. The only injury that knocked him out was an injury which he absolutely could not play, and that's because he couldn't. I mean, and even then, he went back in the game. Like when he literally was back in the game with a torn UCL in the NFC Championship game. He was actually playing. So if you want to talk about 49ers quarterback injuries and all that kind of stuff, this is the guy who won the NFC Championship playing with an injury. Right, I can't remember exactly what the injury was, but he had an injury.
Was it the oblique or what?
Yes, he had the oblique injury. Had the oblique injury, plays through it on a short week. They win the game up in Seattle, plays through the injury. Then you go into the NFC Championship game. He gets injured on the 6th play. He can't throw the ball, but they still throw him back out there, and he plays most of the entire second half because as a result of it. And people are questioning this guy, and it just makes no sense. And those same people are going to tell you about Trey Lance and his inability to throw with a broken finger, which I understand it's tough, but it's like, come on, man. Let's realize what's going on here. This guy didn't step out of any game. He didn't leave a game injured and not return. That's something that I think is part of why I think Kyle Shanahan likes him so much. He likes his quarterbacks to be tough. I think that's one of the reasons that he really liked some of these other guys like Carson Wentz back in the day and so on.
Sean Shepper makes a super chat of $20. Thank you, Sean. He says Schefter's comments come from two sources: Colin Cowherd's extended leash and pre-trade propaganda. So we will accept a low ball trade for Trey. No market. Sam ahead. Seen his practice, etc. Propaganda to accept 1/5 when we gave 3 firsts. I don't know that Cowherd has a vested interest in what the Niners get back for Trey, but just the fact and in some ways, and I understand Cowherd is an opinion maker just like any of us, except he's doing it on TV. But because of his situation with his daughter having dated Trey, every time I see him in kind of an anti-Trey mode, I can't get away from that. And it just seems like almost like, I don't want to say he should stay away from the topic, but it's just, he's maybe a little too close to it to really be impartial. I don't know. And I don't want to question, I don't know Colin at all. I don't want to question his professionalism. I don't want to say that anything from his personal life is bleeding into his coverage of Trey, but at least I would say this, Colin, if you're going to make videos that are in any way sliding Trey Lance or in any way could be perceived as negative for Trey Lance, I think it's almost imperative that you either have full disclosure up front or at least acknowledge at the beginning of your videos that once upon a time you were as excited as anybody in the country about Trey Lance's future and his potential. You know what I'm saying? I would hear his videos better and I would take him more seriously. He doesn't have to bring up his daughter's relationship, but I think, he was glowing of Trey Lance on draft day. At least acknowledge that publicly every time you do a video that in any way slights him. I think you will add more credence and more power to what you're saying if you acknowledge it. Instead, I always feel like he is trying to almost want us to forget that he was a big Trey Lance fan initially. Like if I'm a huge fan of whatever, and then all of a sudden I'm anti on that same topic, I'm starting the video with, hey, guys, truth be told, I used to be a huge fan of X and X, of so-and-so, but because of this, and this, now I'm not, and let's get into. Don't you think? I mean, I don't know. That's my own thing. It's like I really believe in full disclosure to at least be a little bit more honest with your audience about your perspective and where you're coming from. That's just my. What do you think of this comment from Sean?
No, I think that honesty is always good on that kind of stuff, or why things changed or what have you. I don't pay attention to Colin Cowherd enough. I don't to really know everything that he's said, and I know the first thing that came out that kind of started this whole thing was when he talked about Trey Lance's arm fatigue, right? And that ended up being true. So what is he, I that's where I just, I have a hard time with without knowing everything that he said about Lance. I do think that maybe there's a part of his that relationship going south that might play into some of his negativity towards him, but I don't know how much that would be. And I like what you said, though, as far as, hey, just go ahead and lay it all out. And I don't think you need to do it every single time, but if you just really lay it all on the table at least once,